Don't let him stand behind you. The little girl's voice barely rose above the rain. William Hayes frowned, still holding the crumpled note she had shoved into his hand seconds earlier. Before he could answer, she stepped between him and his own bodyguard. Small, soaked, trembling, but her eyes never left the man behind him. "If he touches you tonight," she whispered. "My mama said you won't make it home." 3 hours earlier, the ballroom of the Hayes Crown Hotel glowed gold beneath crystal chandeliers and television lights. Waiters moved carefully between tables carrying bourbon glasses and tiny plates of seared filet, while a jazz trio played near the marble staircase. William Hayes stood near the center of it all in a tailored black tuxedo, smiling for cameras he no longer noticed. The gala had raised $12 million for the Hayes Foundation. Reporters called him generous, visionary, untouchable. But the moment the last flashbulb faded, the exhaustion returned to his face like something permanent. "Your car's ready downstairs, sir," Marcus Vale said quietly beside him. Marcus had worked security for William almost 8 years. Former military, precise, calm under pressure, the kind of man who remembered every face in a room and never drank at company events. William trusted him more than most executives inside his own company. Maybe more than family. William loosened his tie slightly as they walked through the private hallway toward the underground parking level. The scent of expensive perfume still lingered in the air from guests brushing past him all night, but underneath it sat another smell now. Burnt coffee, industrial detergent, hotel smells drifting up from the service elevators after midnight. A cleaning cart stood abandoned near the hallway turn. One wheel squeaked softly every few seconds as it spun in place. William barely noticed it. Marcus did. His eyes flicked toward the service corridor for half a second before moving on. "You should head home after this," William said. "You've been here since 6 this morning. Part of the job." William gave a tired nod. The parking level below the hotel was quiet except for rainwater tapping through distant pipes overhead. Black SUVs reflected across the wet concrete floor. A valet hurried past carrying umbrellas. Somewhere deeper in the garage, a metal door slammed shut. William stepped beside the limousine while Marcus opened the rear passenger door. That was when the little girl appeared. She came from between 2 parked vehicles wearing an oversized gray hoodie darkened by rain. Her sneakers splashed through shallow puddles as she ran straight toward William. Marcus moved instantly, stepping forward to intercept her. But the girl reached William first and shoved something against his chest with both hands. A wrinkled piece of paper. "Please," she said breathlessly. "Please read it before he comes home." Marcus grabbed her arm. Not violently, controlled, professional. "Easy," he said. "Sir, she shouldn't be down here." The girl flinched the moment he touched her sleeve. William unfolded the damp paper slowly beneath the parking lights. The handwriting was shaky, uneven, smeared from water. "Please save my mama before he comes home." William looked down at the child. Black braided hair half undone. Thin face. Eyes too alert for someone her age. "What is this?" he asked. "Who's your mother?" The girl swallowed hard before answering. "Denise Brooks." Something faint tugged at William's memory. Not enough to place, just enough to pause. Marcus released a slow breath beside him. "Sir," he said carefully, "we should go." But the little girl suddenly looked past William's shoulder toward Marcus again. And for the first time since running into the garage, real fear entered her face. Not panic, recognition. Her voice dropped almost to a whisper. "He changed his watch." William frowned slightly. Marcus's expression did not move at all. Then the girl pointed at the silver watch beneath his suit sleeve. The glass across its face was cracked. William's eyes stayed on the cracked watch. Rainwater slid slowly from Marcus Vale's coat sleeve onto the concrete between them. One drop at a time. The bodyguard's face remained perfectly calm, but something about the stillness felt wrong now. Too careful. Too measured. "You said he changed it," William said quietly without looking away from the watch. The little girl nodded once. "Last week it was black." Marcus gave a small breath through his nose, almost amused. Sir, this child's guessing. Maya shook her head immediately. No, her voice stayed soft, but it landed with uncomfortable certainty. The old one made a clicking sound. The valet standing nearby shifted awkwardly before pretending to check another vehicle. Somewhere deeper in the garage, a television played faintly from the security office. Late-night sports commentary drifted through the concrete halls beneath the rain. William finally looked down at the little girl again. How would you know what his watch sounded like? Maya hesitated for the first time. Her fingers tightened around the edge of her soaked hoodie sleeve. Because my mama works downstairs, she said. Near the laundry room. Marcus answered before William could. Half the hotel staff passes through the service corridor. Smooth. Immediate. She probably saw me walking through. William nodded faintly, but his attention drifted elsewhere now. Not toward Marcus. Toward memory. Earlier that evening, during the gala upstairs, Marcus had disappeared for almost 20 minutes before returning through the ballroom side entrance. William remembered asking where he'd been. Marcus had simply answered, checking perimeter cameras. At the time, it had sounded routine. Now something small and unpleasant shifted beneath the memory. What time did you hear him talking? William asked Maya. Marcus's jaw tightened almost invisibly. Maya answered without hesitation. 11:42. William's eyes narrowed slightly. You remember the exact time? The dryers stopped. What? They stop every night before midnight. She pointed vaguely downward toward the hotel basement. Mama checks the timer clock because the manager gets mad if they run too long. Marcus folded his hands calmly in front of him. Sir, this is becoming ridiculous. William did not answer right away. Instead, he reached slowly into his coat pocket and pulled out his phone. He opened the internal security app connected to the hotel cameras. Quietly, casually, like a man checking the weather. Marcus watched the screen once, only once, then looked away. That tiny movement bothered William more than anger would have. The rain grew heavier against the garage entrance. Water hissed along the concrete ramp leading to the street above. Maya glanced nervously toward the dark service hallway beyond the elevators. He knows I heard him, she whispered. Marcus sighed softly as if tired of the situation. Kid, nobody's trying to hurt you. Maya looked straight at him. Then why did my mama tell me not to go home tonight? Silence settled over the garage. Not dramatic, just heavy. William lowered the phone slightly. Where is your mother now? Maya swallowed hard. She was supposed to meet me after her shift. And she never came upstairs. Marcus stepped closer. Sir, I can have staff locate the employee immediately. William nodded slowly. Do that. Marcus reached into his pocket and unlocked his phone. Completely normal. Completely professional. But Maya suddenly grabbed William's sleeve before Marcus could dial. Don't let him call first, she said quickly. Why? Because after he made the call downstairs. Her eyes shifted toward Marcus's cracked silver watch again. He took off his hotel badge and put on a different one. William's gaze moved instantly toward the lanyard clipped beneath Marcus's coat. The badge hanging there tonight had a fresh laminate seal with no scratches on the edges at all. William stared at the untouched badge clipped beneath Marcus Vale's coat, while rainwater dripped steadily from the edge of the limousine roof. The plastic surface looked too clean, too new. Security badges worn daily inside the haze crown usually carried scratches from elevator buttons, bent corners, faded barcodes. This one looked printed an hour ago. Marcus noticed where William's eyes had settled and adjusted the lapel of his coat smoothly over it. Temporary replacement, he said before being asked. The old one stopped scanning this afternoon. Maya's breathing changed beside William. Not louder, smaller, like a child trying not to be noticed. That's not the same one, she whispered. Marcus gave a short laugh under his breath. Kid, you think all badges look different because they're different colors. No, Maya shook her head immediately. The old one had a crack near the picture. William finally spoke. Show me. Marcus hesitated only half a second before unclipping the badge and handing it over. Calm. professional. But William felt the pause anyway. Tiny. Barely visible. The kind of hesitation most people would miss unless they had spent 20 years negotiating billion-dollar contracts while watching men lie through smiles. He turned the badge over slowly beneath the parking lights. Employee access level, executive security. Issue date stamped in small gray print across the bottom. October 12th. Today was October 14th. You replaced it 2 days ago? William asked lightly. Correct. Why wasn't it logged through internal security? Marcus folded his hands behind his back. I requested it through offsite admin while you were in Boston. William said nothing. Somewhere nearby, a hotel cart rolled over concrete with a metallic rattle before fading into the distance. Maya suddenly tugged at William's coat sleeve again. He's lying about Boston. Marcus's eyes moved toward her slowly this time. Excuse me? Maya swallowed but did not back down. You were downstairs Tuesday night. William looked at her. How do you know that? Because Mama made me leave the laundry room early. Her voice lowered as she remembered. She said a man upstairs didn't want children around after midnight. Marcus answered immediately. That could have been anyone. Maya nodded once. But you're the only one who smells like that. Silence. William frowned slightly. Smells like what? Maya pointed carefully toward Marcus's coat. That smoke smell. Marcus's jaw tightened almost invisibly again. Cigars, he said flatly. Half the guests upstairs smoke cigars. Not that kind. Maya's eyes stayed fixed on him. It smells sweet, like burned syrup. William's expression shifted just slightly. His late wife used to describe expensive clove cigarettes the same way. Burned syrup. He had smelled it once earlier tonight near the restricted service hallway beside the freight elevators. At the time, he assumed one of the kitchen staff had stepped outside for a smoke break. Now the memory returned sharper. Marcus reached into his pocket again and unlocked his phone. Sir, I'm calling downstairs myself. We can settle this in 5 minutes. But before he pressed the screen, William's own phone vibrated softly in his hand. An automated internal security alert. Basement access override detected. Service corridor C. 11:43 p.m. William's thumb hovered over the message. Maya looked up instantly. That's the time, she whispered. William opened the attached security log silently. One badge had entered the restricted laundry corridor at exactly 11:43 p.m. Executive security access. User ID M. Veil. Marcus exhaled slowly through his nose. Still calm. Still controlled. Sir, he said carefully. There's an explanation for that. But William barely heard him now because directly beneath the access log sat something much smaller. A second notification automatically attached by the system. Camera feed unavailable. Duration missing. 14 minutes. The words camera feed unavailable seemed to hang in the damp underground air long after William lowered the phone. 14 missing minutes. Not static. Not corrupted. Unavailable. Marcus stepped forward carefully, lowering his voice the way people did in hospitals and funerals when they wanted to sound reasonable. Sir, service corridor cameras go down all the time during maintenance. William looked up slowly. At exactly the same time your badge accessed the restricted level? Marcus held his gaze without blinking. Coincidences happen. Maya tightened both hands around the wet, crumpled note against her chest. William noticed then how cold she looked. Water dripped steadily from the hem of her hoodie onto the polished concrete floor beneath the limousine lights. A hotel operations manager hurried into the garage from the elevator lobby carrying a tablet against his chest. Mid-50s. Gray suit. Thin smile already prepared before he reached them. Mr. Hayes, he said smoothly. I heard there was a disturbance downstairs. His eyes landed briefly on Maya before returning to William. We can handle this internally. Maya became smaller somehow the moment the man arrived. Not physically, socially. The garage suddenly belonged to adults in expensive coats and polished shoes again. William slipped the phone into his pocket. I'm looking for an employee named Denise Brooks. The manager's smile flickered only slightly. Laundry department? Yes. I'm afraid Ms. Brooks left the property earlier tonight. Maya spoke immediately. No, she didn't. The manager looked down at her politely, not cruelly. Worse, patiently, like a child interrupting adults at church. Sweetheart, employees clock out all the time without notifying family members. She wouldn't leave me. I understand this feels upsetting. Maya's fingers curled tighter around the note. She told me to stay hidden until she came back. The manager gave a soft sigh toward William. Mr. Hayes, children often misunderstand workplace situations. Marcus nodded once beside him. Exactly. William said nothing. The elevator doors behind them opened again. This time a woman stepped out in a cream-colored wool coat carrying a leather portfolio under one arm. Claire Whitmore, senior legal counsel for Hayes Crown. Her heels clicked sharply against the garage floor as she approached. William, she said quietly. Security informed me there may be a liability issue. Liability issue. Not missing employee. Not frightened child. Maya lowered her eyes toward the floor for the first time since entering the garage. Claire noticed the soaked paper in the little girl's hands immediately. Sir, she continued carefully, if someone coached this child to accuse your security staff, we should avoid creating documentation before facts are verified. Marcus remained silent now. Too silent. William studied him briefly before looking back toward Claire. 14 minutes of missing footage isn't documentation? Claire answered smoothly. Camera interruptions happen in older service corridors. This hotel was renovated last year. A small pause followed. Barely there. But William caught it. Claire adjusted the strap of her portfolio. Then perhaps IT can explain it. Maya suddenly spoke without looking up. My mama said rich people always lose cameras when poor people see something bad. Silence spread. Through the garage again. Even the valet near the elevators stopped moving for a second. Claire's expression hardened almost invisibly. William, she said more quietly now. With respect, this child shouldn't be here while executive staff are discussing internal security matters. Maya looked up then, calm, wet hair clinging to her forehead. I was there when he made the call. Marcus finally reacted. Tiny. Instant. His head turned toward her too quickly before he stopped himself. William saw it. What call? He asked softly. Maya swallowed once. Near the dryers. Who did he call? I couldn't hear the name. She hesitated. But he said your route changed. Marcus gave a short laugh that sounded almost convincing. Sir, this is getting absurd. Claire nodded immediately. Exactly. Someone's feeding her details. But Maya slowly pulled something from the pocket of her hoodie then. A small yellow parking stub folded in half from being held too tightly. She handed it silently to William. Claire's composed expression did not change until William turned the ticket over and read the handwritten note on the back. Basement exit. 12:15. Use the black SUV. The handwriting matched Marcus Vale's employee incident reports exactly. The yellow parking stub stayed in William Hayes's hand long after everyone else stopped speaking. Rain hissed softly beyond the garage entrance while the overhead fluorescent lights buzzed with a faint electrical hum. Marcus Vale's expression remained controlled, but William noticed something now he had never paid attention to before. Marcus was no longer standing beside him. He had shifted slightly behind him again. Not close enough to alarm anyone. Just close enough to return to the position he always occupied naturally. William folded the parking stub once between his fingers. Where did you get this? Maya answered immediately. Under the dryers. Claire Whitmore crossed her arms lightly against her coat. A parking ticket proves nothing. Maya looked at her calmly. I know. The answer landed harder than if she had argued. William turned the stub over again. Basement exit. 12:15. Use the black SUV. He had seen Marcus's handwriting on hundreds of internal reports over the years. Tight letters. Slanted slightly left. The same shape in the capital U. Phone opened. The screen flickered weakly to life. One saved contact appeared on the tiny blue display. Only one. Home. Maya looked up at William. Mama said if anything happened, I should give it to the person whose name was inside. William stared at the screen, then slowly pressed the call history button. 3 outgoing calls. All placed tonight. 11:38 p.m. 11:41 p.m. 11:43 p.m. Every single call went to the same number. William's personal private line. The number almost nobody had. His throat tightened slightly. How did your mother get this number? Maya shook her head. I don't know. William pressed further into the call log. One voicemail remained partially saved. Corrupted. Only 7 seconds long. Static crackled through the tiny speaker first. Then a woman's frightened voice rushed out breathlessly. Mr. Hayes, if Marcus finds out I called why? The recording cut off sharply. Silence flooded the garage. William slowly lifted his eyes toward Marcus Vale. And for the first time in 8 years, the man he trusted most would not look back at him. Marcus Vale finally lowered his eyes first. It lasted less than a second, but William Hayes saw it clearly beneath the fluorescent lights of the parking garage. Not fear. Calculation. Marcus recovered almost immediately and extended his hand toward the old flip phone with calm professionalism. Sir, let me secure that as evidence. Maya stepped backward before William could respond. Small movement. Fast. Protective. She clutched the phone against her chest with both hands like somebody trying to shield a heartbeat. No, Marcus kept his voice even. Kid, if there's really a threat here, that device needs proper handling. Mama said not to let security touch it. Silence again. William looked at Maya for a long moment. Rainwater dripped steadily from the cuff of her sleeve onto the concrete floor. She was exhausted, cold, scared. But she still wasn't asking for money. Not once. What do you want, Maya? William asked quietly. Her answer came immediately. I want my mama alive. The words settled heavily between them. Claire Whitmore glanced toward William carefully, measuring him now instead of controlling the room. She could feel the shift happening even if nobody acknowledged it aloud. William reached slowly into his coat pocket and removed a second phone. Smaller. Black matte finish. Private line. Almost nobody knew the number. He turned slightly away from the group and made one call. Elliot, he said when the line connected. I need remote access to archived basement security footage for tonight. Direct server pull. No internal routing. A pause. No, don't notify hotel security. Another pause. Especially not Marcus. Marcus's face remained unreadable, but the muscle near his jaw tightened once. William ended the call and slipped the phone away again. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Somewhere nearby, an industrial ice machine rumbled on behind a service door. The normal mechanical sound felt strangely loud now. Maya looked toward the dark service hallway again. The dryers stopped making noise after midnight, she said softly. That's when it got quiet downstairs. William looked at her. What happened after it got quiet? Maya hesitated. Then she reached into the pocket of her hoodie once more and pulled out something folded tightly into a square. A receipt. Damp. Wrinkled. She handed it carefully to William. Mama dropped it. William unfolded it beneath the garage lights. Coffee purchase. 2 drinks. Service cafe near the basement elevators. Timestamp. 11:47 p.m. He frowned slightly. Why does this matter? Maya pointed at the bottom line. 1 drink modified. Extra clove syrup. William's eyes stopped moving. Burned syrup. The smell from Marcus's coat. He remembered it again suddenly. Not just tonight. Last month in Boston after a board dinner. 2 weeks ago outside William's private jet hangar. Small details he had ignored because they belonged to Marcus, and Marcus had always belonged inside his trusted circle. Claire stepped forward smoothly. William, employees buy coffee for each other constantly. But William wasn't listening anymore. His attention had shifted lower on the receipt where another detail sat beneath the total amount. Customer loyalty number ending in 4431. Marcus's employee ID ended in 4431. William lifted his eyes slowly toward him. Marcus gave a small shrug. I grabbed coffee for somebody downstairs. That's hardly a crime. William nodded once. Who? Marcus answered too quickly. Night maintenance. Name. Pause. Tiny. But real. I'd have to check. William looked back down at the receipt again. The coffee order had been placed 7 minutes after Marcus's security badge accessed the restricted laundry corridor. 7 minutes before the cameras went dark. Maya watched William carefully now, almost afraid of the answer forming behind his eyes. He folded the receipt once between his fingers. Quietly, deliberately, then he asked the question that changed something inside the garage forever. Marcus, he said softly, why would my bodyguard be buying coffee in the basement with an employee who officially doesn't exist on tonight's staffing report? Marcus Vale did not answer immediately. The garage felt colder now, the kind of cold that crept under expensive coats and stayed there. Water dripped from the ceiling pipe above the service corridor in slow metallic taps. Claire Whitmore stepped carefully back into the silence before Marcus could speak. William, she said gently, you're connecting ordinary details because a frightened child handed you a story. William folded the coffee receipt once more and slipped it beside the parking stub in his pocket. Calm. Controlled. Maybe. Marcus seized the opening immediately. Sir, if somebody inside this hotel is manipulating evidence, we should isolate the source. Maya's eyes lifted toward him. You mean me? I mean, confusion spreads fast. He softened his voice deliberately, especially with kids. William watched him closely now. Every sentence sounded reasonable. That was the problem. Marcus had spent years learning exactly how to sound trustworthy in dangerous situations. A black SUV rolled slowly through the far end of the garage before disappearing up the exit ramp. The headlights washed briefly across the concrete pillars, then vanished into rain. William glanced toward the elevators. Let's move this upstairs. Claire visibly relaxed. Marcus did not. Sir, respectfully, I think we should leave the property entirely. Why? William asked lightly. If there's a threat, we regroup somewhere controlled. William nodded once. Good point. Then he looked toward Maya. You said your mother hid the phone in your lunchbox? Maya nodded. In the side pocket. Before work. Yes. William pressed the elevator button. Then she expected something to happen before midnight. Marcus's hand stopped briefly on the handle of the security case hanging at his side. Tiny movement. Tiny pause. William saw it anyway. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Inside, mirrored walls reflected all of them back strangely under pale light. Wealth. Authority. A soaked little girl clutching a broken flip phone. William stepped inside last. Marcus moved automatically beside the control panel. Penthouse level? He asked. No, William's answer came smooth and immediate. Security archives. For the first time all night, Marcus hesitated openly. Not long. Just enough. Sir, the archive servers are under renovation. William looked at him. I know. Silence. The elevator doors slid shut. As the car began rising, Maya stared quietly at the glowing floor numbers. Her shoes left small wet footprints across the polished floor. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Only the low mechanical hum of cables pulling them upward through the hotel. Then William reached into his pocket and removed his phone again. He opened the internal building camera feed without saying anything. Marcus watched the screen reflection in the mirrored wall. William tilted the phone slightly away. Another tiny thing. Another tiny reaction. Floor 12. Floor 14. Floor 16. Maya suddenly spoke very softly. He always touches his watch when he lies. Marcus looked at her instantly. William didn't. He kept his eyes on the elevator numbers while quietly observing Marcus in the reflection instead. The bodyguard's thumb had already moved unconsciously toward the cracked silver watch before stopping halfway there. Nobody said anything. The elevator continued climbing. Floor 19. Floor 20. William finally spoke without emotion. Marcus, earlier you said your replacement badge came from off-site administration. Correct. Then why did the badge system log it as printed from Terminal B downstairs? Marcus's eyes flicked toward him sharply. Just once. William held up his phone calmly. On screen sat the internal maintenance report Elliot had just forwarded. Badge Terminal B. Basement Security Office. Print request authorized at 11:31 p.m. by Marcus Vale. 7 minutes before the first call from Denise Brooks. Claire went completely still. The elevator hummed softly upward another floor. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed loudly enough to hear. Then a faint vibration broke the silence. Marcus's phone buzzing inside his coat pocket. He did not answer it. But Maya looked at the shaking fabric once and whispered the sentence that finally changed the balance inside the elevator forever. That's the same ringtone from the laundry room. The elevator stopped so smoothly it almost felt intentional. Floor 27. Executive Archives. Nobody moved right away. Marcus Vale's phone had stopped vibrating, but the silence it left behind felt heavier now. William Hayes stepped out first into a narrow hallway lined with dark glass walls and recessed lights. The entire floor smelled faintly of printer toner, cold air conditioning, and expensive carpet cleaned too often. Maya stayed close behind him, clutching the old flip phone under her hoodie. Marcus followed last. Calm again. Too calm. At the far end of the hallway, a red security light blinked steadily above the archive room door. William pressed his thumb against the biometric scanner. Access granted. Inside, rows of digital storage servers hummed softly beneath low white lights. Elliot Mercer was already waiting near the main terminal, wearing wrinkled slacks and no jacket, his glasses sliding halfway down his nose. "You got here fast," William said quietly. Elliot glanced toward Marcus once before answering. "You sounded serious." Claire Whitmore entered behind them, her heels softer now against the carpet. "William, before we escalate this further, we should consider exposure risks to the company." William ignored her. "Show me the basement feed." Elliot hesitated briefly. "There's damage to the timeline. Can it be restored?" "Partially." Marcus folded his hands in front of him. "Sir, corrupted files can create false frames and timing errors." William looked at him calmly. "Then we'll watch carefully." Elliot loaded the footage. Grainy black and white camera angles filled the monitor wall one by one. Service corridors, freight elevators, laundry intake rooms. Timestamp, 11:39 p.m. Maya stepped closer to the screens immediately. "That hallway," she whispered. "Mama was there." William watched the footage in silence. Denise Brooks appeared pushing a laundry cart loaded with white hotel sheets. Tired, moving quickly, she stopped near the dryers as Marcus entered frame from the opposite corridor. He looked around once before approaching her. "No audio. Just movement." Denise took one step backward. Marcus spoke to her, calmly. Then he held out his hand. Denise shook her head immediately. William's expression changed slightly. "Zoom." Elliot enlarged the frame. Denise clutched something against her chest beneath her employee apron. The old flip phone. She was trying to keep it away from him, Maya whispered. Marcus finally shifted his weight. Tiny movement. Tiny crack. The footage continued. Marcus leaned closer to Denise again. Then another figure entered frame from the far corridor. A woman in a long cream coat. Claire Whitmore went completely still beside the monitors. William slowly turned toward her. "You told me you came directly from home tonight." Claire opened her mouth once before closing it again. On screen, the woman stepped fully beneath the hallway light. Evelyn Hayes, William's younger sister. His breath stopped. Maya looked up at him quietly. "That's the lady from the phone call." Nobody answered her. The footage rolled forward another few seconds before suddenly freezing into digital static. 11:43 p.m. Missing footage begins. Elliot swallowed hard. That's all we had. But Maya suddenly moved toward the monitor wall. "No," she whispered. "Wait." William looked at her. Maya pointed toward the bottom corner of the frozen screen where another tiny camera angle remained partially active. Reflection footage from the polished metal doors near the service elevator. Distorted. Small. Easy to miss. Elliot isolated the image and enlarged it carefully. The Reflection sharpened little by little beneath the server room lights. Enough to see Marcus grab Denise's arm. Enough to see Evelyn Hayes standing beside him. Enough to see Denise force something into a child-sized lunchbox cart before the feed died completely. William stared without blinking now. Pale. Silent. The room seemed to lose all sound except the hum of the servers. Then Elliot opened another recovered file automatically attached beneath the damaged footage. Internal transfer authorization. Timestamp. 11:51 p.m. $800 million in life insurance restructuring tied to William Hayes's death. Approved beneficiary, Evelyn Hayes. Security oversight authorization signed by Marcus Vale. William's hand slowly pressed against the edge of the desk like he suddenly needed something solid beneath him. Maya looked toward him carefully, almost afraid of the hurt settling across his face. My mama said rich people don't notice the people cleaning the building, she said softly. That's why bad people talk in front of them. William closed his eyes for one long second. When he opened them again, something inside him had changed completely. He removed the parking stub from his coat pocket, placed it carefully beside the restored footage printout, and spoke without raising his voice at all. Call my attorney. By sunrise, the 27th floor of Hayes Crown no longer felt untouchable. Attorneys moved quietly through the executive halls carrying sealed folders and laptops. Internal investigators occupied conference rooms that usually hosted million-dollar negotiations. Nobody raised their voice. Nobody needed to. The restored footage had already been copied to 3 separate legal firms before dawn. Marcus Vale was escorted from the building just after 6 a.m. by corporate security officers who refused to meet his eyes. He did not fight. He did not explain. But when he passed Maya sitting outside the archive room wrapped in a hotel blanket, he slowed for half a second as if trying to understand how a little girl from the laundry floor had unraveled 8 years of carefully built trust. Maya simply looked back at him without speaking. Claire Whitmore resigned before noon. Evelyn Hayes did not. She tried to call William 14 times before federal investigators arrived at her penthouse with warrants connected to fraud, conspiracy, and insurance manipulation. By afternoon, the Hayes Foundation board voted unanimously to remove her from every charitable and financial position tied to the company name. News outlets began circling the hotel by evening. Reporters waited outside the glass entrance beneath umbrellas while shareholders demanded statements. But William Hayes ignored the cameras for once in his life. He spent most of the day in a small hospital room 3 miles away. Denise Brooks lay asleep beneath pale blue blankets with an4 taped to her arm. Exhaustion had hollowed her face more than illness. Maya sat curled in the chair beside her mother, holding the old flip phone in both hands while cartoons played softly on the mounted television overhead. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and vending machine coffee. William stood near the window in silence for a long time before finally speaking. Your mother saved evidence knowing it could cost her job. Maya nodded once. She said people like us don't get believed twice. The words stayed with him. Denise woke slowly an hour later and panicked the moment she saw William in the room, trying to sit upright too quickly. I didn't steal anything, she whispered immediately. I swear I didn't. William felt something sharp move through his chest then. Not guilt alone. Recognition. This woman had been terrified of losing a housekeeping job while men in tailored suits planned murder around her under his own name. I know, he said quietly. Denise stared at him in confusion, as if she did not understand what kind of world allowed rich men to say those words after it was already too late. William arranged private legal protection for both of them before sunset. Denise's hospital bills were transferred out of collections. Her employee record was restored publicly with formal written clearance from Hayes Crown. The company's board approved emergency reforms for overnight staff safety, anonymous reporting systems, and independent oversight for executive security operations. But the moment that mattered most happened 3 nights later inside William's penthouse kitchen. No reporters. No attorneys. Just warm light over dark marble counters while rain tapped softly against the windows overlooking Manhattan. Maya sat at the island wearing a clean sweater too big for her shoulders while Denise slept safely in the guest suite down the hall. A bowl of tomato soup steamed gently between Maya's hands. Beside it sat a full glass of milk she had not touched yet. William stood near the counter loosening his tie after another 12-hour meeting with investigators. The old flip phone rested beside the coffee maker where he had placed it carefully instead of locking it away. Maya noticed him looking at it. "You kept it," she said softly. William nodded. "Yeah." She dipped her spoon into the soup slowly. "Mama says rich people throw away broken things fast." William looked toward the rain beyond the windows for a moment before answering. "Your mother was smarter than me." Maya considered that quietly. Then she pushed the untouched glass of milk slightly toward him across the counter. "You should drink something too," she said. William stared at the glass for a second longer than necessary. Somewhere deep inside the apartment, the dryer hummed softly with clean laundry finishing its cycle. Warm. Ordinary. Safe. He finally sat down across from her, and for the first time in years, William Hayes listened before speaking.